Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmad. Our next speaker is Dr. Aisha Jamal from NIBD Karachi. She will be delivering a talk on achieving outcomes in acute promyelocytic leukemia comparable to developed countries by implementing locally adapted European Leukemia Net guidelines.
Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon to all the respected seniors and your colleagues. I'm Dr. Aisha Jamal and I'm currently working as section head of acute leukemia and as an adult bone marrow transplant physician at NIBD and BMT Hospital. The title of my abstract presentation is Achieving Outcomes in Acute Promyelocytic Leukemia Comparable to Developed Countries by Implementing Locally Adapted ELN Guidelines. I have nothing to disclose. So a brief background, as we are all well aware that APM is basically a potentially curable disorder provided that it is diagnosed and managed in a time-sensitive manner. Despite significant advances in the outcome of APL in the resource-rich settings, the outcome has remained dismal in the developing part of the world because of very high early mortality, and that is basically inherent to the pathobiology of this disease. So this is basically a pictorial depiction of outcome disparities between our regional data and that of the resource-rich settings. If you look at the regional data, the early mortality rate is around 20 to 25%, and the overall survival is around 70%, which stands in a stark contrast to an early mortality rate of less than 10% and an overall survival of around 80 to 85% in the resource-rich settings. So basically, well aware of the curative potential of APL, we at our institute modeled our approach to the management of APL as per the International Consortium on APL that was established in 2005, and it was basically established across 4 Latin American countries with the intent of improving outcomes in APL, and it basically demonstrated a significant reduction in the early mortality rate of around 50% and an improvement in overall survival of around 30% through the implementation of structured diagnostic treatment and supportive care guidelines that were conducive in the local healthcare context. So basically, the objective of our study was to mitigate early mortality and to improve survival outcomes in APL by implementing structured, time-sensitive management approach based on European Leukemia Net. It was a longitudinal observation study that lasted from April 2019 till December 2023, and all the patients that were diagnosed with APL and were age 15 or more were included into the study. All the patients with an ejection fraction of less than 40% or dialysis dependents were excluded from the analysis, so were the patients with relapsed APL. So at the very start, we basically meticulously designed standard operating procedures and we disseminated them to all the concerned personnel, be it our staff, pharmacy, nursing staff, doctors, and the purpose was to basically ensure a consistent and a coordinated practice. APL, whenever was considered a medical emergency, whenever abnormal promyelocytes were reported, and the salient local adaptations were the use of PCR as a modality of choice for diagnosis, and the restriction of PCR turnaround time to less than 72 hours. For coagulopathy management, we basically set the cutoffs to the lower recommended threshold with fibrinogen of more than 1 and the platelet count of more than 30. For all of our high-risk patients, the first dose of anthracycline was administered the very same day as that of the first dose of Atra, and all the high-risk patients received prophylactic steroids as well. All the patients in our cohort were treated with Atra-based chemotherapeutic protocol, and none of the patient was treated with chemotherapy-free approach. Moving to the results, there were a total of 27 patients with a median age of 31 years. They were around 70% male, and around 60% of our cohort belonged to the high-risk category. The response to induction chemotherapy was assessed after the recovery of peripheral blood counts and not earlier than at least 35 days of Atra treatment. The early mortality rate in our cohort was 12%, and the major cause of mortality was hemorrhage, and all the 3 mortalities were basically concentrated in the high-risk category. Fortunately, all the remaining 88% of the patients were able to achieve a complete morphological remission, and afterwards they were proceeded with, Atra-based consolidation chemotherapy, and post-consolidation, 100% of our patients were able to achieve a molecular remission. If you look at the survival analysis, the median duration of the follow-up for the entire cohort was 27 months. The 2-year overall survival was 84.7%, and the disease-free survival of 95.2%. We did a risk stratified comparison between the overall survival and disease-free survival for the non-high-risk category and the high-risk category. It remains statistically insignificant, except for that in the high-risk group, the overall survival was 81.3% compared to 90.9% in the non-high-risk group. Over the period of follow-up, there was only one relapse and there was one non-relapse mortality, and that resulted in a 2-year cumulative incidence of relapse and that of non-relapse mortality of 4.8% each. So this again is that pictorial depiction of our data side by side to that of the ICAPL and then that of the developed nations. And if we consider that the data from the developed world is basically from the clinical trials and ours is the real world data, we can see we are still not there, but it is better. And we are heading at least in the right direction. So our study basically demonstrates that the key to improve APL outcomes lies not only in knowing exactly what to do to counter early mortality, but also in rigorously implementing a structured and a systematic approach. Notably, none of our early mortality in our cohort was attributable to differentiation syndrome. In fact, none of our patients developed severe differentiation syndrome, and this we believe was basically the result of the same-day anthracycline administration and prophylactic use of steroids in our high-risk patients. The limitations of our study is that, of course, it's a single-center study. This sample size is small yet, and still we don't have the long-term follow-up data yet. And because of the resource constraints, we could not offer a chemotherapy-free approach to our patients, which could have actually resulted in even better early mortality rate. So in conclusion, our findings demonstrate that implementing a structured standard operating procedures based on locally adapted guidelines provided essential clarity in managing APL care. This clarity enabled all team members to act decisively, reducing reliance on ad hoc decision and substantially improve early survival rates and long-term outcomes. Thank you. So it was 27. Over the period of 4 years, we had, total number of patients was 27.
दोनों कंपैरिजन जो थे DFS एंड OS के, नहीं ये लेफ्ट पे OS है और राइट पे DFS है, ऐसे ही है?
जी बिल्कुल ऐसा ही है, OS and DFS.
So I'm a bit confused के DFS इसमें से वो, so ये DFS ऊपर कैसे आ गया ना?
क्या चीज़ सर? Yes sir, this is how it is.
No, it can't be because DFS is supposed to be lower than the OS.
So basically, it was, if we even look at the international data and the definitions that ICAPL used, OS is basically counted from the day of diagnosis till the death or the last follow-up. And on the other hand, DFS was calculated for the patients who achieved the remission. So it is basically post-CR. So since it's post-CR, the early mortalities are excluded from DFS. And this is the exact same definition that was used by ICAPL. And if we, so this is how it is, basically.
Okay.
It's not EFS, because in EFS, it starts from the diagnosis. So in EFS, the early mortalities are included. I hope it makes sense.
सौ पेशेंट थे, खुदा न खास्ता 50 की डेथ हो गई, तो बाकी 50 तो आप कहेंगे डिजीज फ्री रह गए, तो ये कैसे होगा?
नहीं सर, मैंने ऐसा नहीं कहा।
आप यही कह रही हैं ना कि देखें आपने अर्ली मोर्टेलिटी निकाल दिया तो फिर डिजीज फ्री तो जो 50 जिन्होंने रिमिशन अचीव किया वो फर्ज करें 100 के 100 ही सही रहे,
सर एक्चुअली
डिजीज फ्री तो 100% हो गया ना?
No sir, DFS includes relapses and deaths, but it calculates relapses and deaths after the CR. This is the standard definition for disease-free survival. And that is,
I mean, that definition can't apply on a cohort. On a cohort, once you are comparing a particular cohort, then you are comparing the event during that particular time.
so this is in the materials and method setting, we have a definition for OS, we have a definition for DFS, and then we have a definition for EFS. The OS starts from the time of diagnosis till the event, and the event is death or the patient is alive. For DFS, the calculation universally is from the attainment of CR, that is after the remission has been established, so that you may know exactly
You-
how many patients relapsed.
You are not understanding my point.
All right.
My point is once the patients are in CR
Mm-hmm.
and that particular cohort is followed over time,
Mm-hmm.
then you calculate OS on that cohort that you have already selected.
So we are calculating OS for the cohort that was diagnosed at the baseline. Whoever has been diagnosed, even if they die in the CR, they are being calculated on the calculation of OS. And for the both groups, OS has been calculated that way. That is why the OS for the high risk category is lower, because there were 3 mortalities in the early phase. On the other hand, there was only 1 non-relapse mortality that basically occurred post remission, and that reduced the overall survival for the low risk category to 90.9%. On
Okay,
the
that-
other hand, for DFS, sorry, Dr. Usmani.
That's fine. Sorry, one quick question, Dr. Aisha. You said so locally adapted protocols. So what bit was locally adapted in that?
Sir, so
So ये तो सारी standard चीजें ही थी जो आपने
mostly,
बताई.
except that because of the restriction of blood product support, we don't have very free blood product support. We did not use the cutoff of 30 for the platelet count, and we did not use the cutoff of 1.5 for fibrinogen. And similarly, we did administer steroid prophylaxis to every high-risk patient, which is not a norm at the moment. It is a consideration, and it's at the discretion of the center. So that again, and thirdly, we used anthracyclines on the very same day as the ATRA in the high-risk cohort. So these were the minor differences, but the major thing was that we implemented in a very structured and in a very coordinated way in which there was no ad hoc decision making. Sorry.
Thank you. Till the end, yeah.
So last question. So very good presentation. For a single center to have these numbers in few years is a good as well. So real world data does give a higher mortality rate early on. So in that context, I would assume that the patients were coming to you from a reference or how from reference center.
And that is why we had 60% of the high-risk patients, because by the time they were reaching to us, they were, there was a lot of time that has already been spent on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.